And we are live. Somewhat.
All right, good evening. Thank you guys for being here today. This is what it's about. Coming to hear directly from the people who are running for elected office and the people who serve you to hear what they have to say in their platforms. So thank you very much for taking the time to be here. And we also want to thank the people who will be watching this later online, and then also the volunteers who make this happen behind the scenes. Some are here and then some just the logistical stuff. So thank you guys for that. And then also, before we get started, we want to talk about the people who are putting this event on tonight. And so we'll start with the first group, which is the Alabama Coalition for Immigrant Justice. It's going to come up and say a little bit about who they are. It's important to sponsor.
Hi everyone, my name is Anadelia Espino. I'm the Executive Director for the Alabama Coalition for Immigrant Justice. We are a statewide grassroots leadership development and advocacy organization. We have leadership represented in this room on tonight, and we're really excited to be able to speak with you tonight and hear what plans you have for the next coming election. Thanks.
And then the next group that is sponsoring the event that is going to say something is going to be Alabama New South Coalition, the Madison County chapter.
Good evening. I'm here on behalf of the Madison County chapter of Alabama New South Coalition. It was founded in January of 1986. New South is focused on social justice issues, and Madison County chapter is focused on voter restoration, voter education, and voter registration. We also sponsor, in conjunction with the Madison County Volunteer Lawyers Association, a quarterly voter restoration rights where convicted felons can come in, speak with lawyers free to try and get their rights restored. We're happy to be able to sponsor.
And then the next sponsoring organization is the United Women of Color.
Thank you. Angela Curry with United Women of Color, founder and executive director. We just celebrated 4 years here in Huntsville, Alabama, so we are hyper-local. We have a contact list of local area residents of over 2,000 people. We will be boosting this event, and we are about empowering women, girls, and their families, and we do that through advocacy, civic engagement, and education through empowerment. So we do economic development as far as, not development, but workforce development to help families move up economically. We also, civic engagement is at the heart of what we do, so we offer this as a public service to the community. And also with advocacy, we're looking to transform policing on a local level so that we have more transparent policing and also public access to information.
Okay, those are the three organizations that are hosting tonight. Tonight's ground rules have been agreed to by the candidates and are as follows. So first, the purpose of the candidate forum is to provide an opportunity for citizens to ask their questions and learn about where these individuals stand. It's also an opportunity for the individuals to express why they're running and why they thought they should throw their name in the ring. Candidates will be allotted 2 minutes to provide openings, or 1 minute to provide opening statements in alphabetical order. The candidates that couldn't attend today will be given 3 minutes to provide their written statements. Time will be kept for questions, and candidates will each get 1 minute to answer questions. They'll get time cards that are available to them that they can see. That'll provide a 15-second warning before the time elapses, and then a bell will sound once the time is up. All candidates will be asked the same question, and again, they'll start in alphabetical order with the first person going first, and then we'll shift with the third person in alphabetical order for the second question. The questions have been drawn up by the three host groups, and we'll get started. So we'll begin by reading the two District 2 candidates that can make it tonight, Drake Daggett, and the following is his statement. Huntsville's motto is the Star of Alabama. I seek to help Huntsville be a state leader, a shining example of what a benevolent city government looks like. I grew up on a dairy farm in rural Wisconsin. I learned from my parents the value of hard work, using the right tool for the right job, perseverance, and that honest mistakes are to be forgiven and then used as a lesson. I learned leadership at the United States Air Force Academy and then throughout my 20-year military career. I've started 2 small businesses here in Huntsville, custom woodworking and a small real estate venture with a friend. I'm an Eagle Scout, I'm civic-minded. I often think that government is not applied equally to all of my citizens, and I want to ensure that that is not the case with my city government. I'm a complete novice to the political process, which I think has its own advantages and disadvantages. It's fascinating to me to just be participating in this process. People, agencies, organizations are contacting me, asking me about my viewpoints on a variety of issues, and it is somewhat surprising to me that so many people are interested in what I have to say. My positions: transparency and visibility. I want to report the bid solicitation and contract approval process to the citizens. Is public money being spent appropriately, and is the paper trail auditable by an independent agency? Also, I want to begin transparency and visibility of negotiations between the police union and the city. I think the police union has too much power, and I would like to report to the citizens of Huntsville what the negotiations are between the city and the police union. As an example, Crystal Ragland, Iraq War veteran suffering from PTSD, was shot and killed by Huntsville police May 2019. The HBT, in a statement released with the video, said it would not have released the body cam footage without a court order because of its sensitive nature. Is this standard procedure negotiated by the police union? Why isn't all body cam footage in the public domain? The Huntsville 2022 budget has over $56 million budgeted to policing, and it is by far the largest single line item in the city budget. Is that the right amount? How much power does the police union have when negotiating with the city? If those negotiations are closed to the public, why? If they are open to the public, why is the process not more visible? Small business. I want to ensure that the city is not bearing market access to a potential entrepreneur with restrictive licensing requirements. I'll work with city planners and permitting to allow smart and expeditious construction of housing and industry. I think a major challenge in this region is the lack of general knowledge of Huntsville, Alabama at the national level. We have an opportunity as a region generally, and Huntsville specifically, to really lead a drive and campaign to posture ourselves as a Silicon Valley East. The highly educated and highly skilled workforce that Huntsville, Alabama's aerospace roots have helped establish have also become a selling point to other industries. Homeless. I want to see how the city is protecting the most vulnerable citizens, the homeless population. I want to ensure that there are no laws that criminalize being homeless. Homeless people are still citizens. They are entitled to all services of the government that we all enjoy. I don't see that as the case in Huntsville, and I thank you for taking the time to read this at the Camden Forum. The next statement is also by District 2 candidate who couldn't attend, David Little. David Little is a lifelong resident of Huntsville. He and his wife Mimi, also a lifelong resident of Huntsville, have 3 children, all of whom attended Huntsville City Schools. David is a veteran of the U.S. Marine Corps and has served the community as a board member of numerous nonprofit organizations, to include Beals, Leadership Greater Huntsville, the Huntsville Rotary Club, and is a founding member of the Huntsville Police Citizens Advisory Council. He's worked in a variety of business roles for the past 25 years and is a financial advisor for a local wealth management firm. David's priorities are to ensure our public safety departments are fully funded and supported by the city, work with the mayor and council members to maintain, improve, and expand our infrastructure to keep up with the rapid growth of our city. Additionally, he will be a good steward of taxpayer dollars and represent the district equally, promoting a high quality of life for all. Now we'll begin with opening statements of the candidates in Pittston, starting with District 2, Mr. Full.
Hi, I'm Brian Foy. I'm running for City Council District 2. I'm a resident of Wassamo and have been since 2012. I actually grew up in Madison County. My father moved here in '89, we were stationed here and then stayed. So I went to Spartan High School, attended the University of Alabama, worked in Birmingham for consultancy, and then came back to Huntsville to work for a startup. I got married, had 2 kids, moved to Denver for a job and get some more leadership experience with some Fortune 500 companies, and then returned to Huntsville in 2012 and been home ever since. The reason I'm running for City Council is to make sure we have a strong, accessible voice for District 2. We need to have a champion advocate and continue to have that on the City Council, and then someone who's willing to make sure that Huntsville continues to move forward. And I think the big number 1 for us is making sure that the city's working for us. Right? Huntsville is not number 1 without us. And I think the city sometimes is doing things that are not necessarily in the best interest of us. And I think having an advocate, a voice to make sure that we are moving forward in the right way as a district as well as the city is important. And that's why I'm running.
Okay, Mr. Peters.
Good evening. My name is Danny Peters. My background, I was a naval officer. Started out on the surface side and then moving over to the information professional side, which is the comm cyber side of the world. I have a bachelor's in computer engineering from the U.S. Naval Academy, a master's in public management with a focus on public sector finance and acquisitions from the University of Maryland. And I'm currently enrolled in a master's of science program in environmental planning and management from Johns Hopkins University. I'm running because I want to focus on smart development, making sure we're curtailing that urban sprawl, minimizing our environmental impact, protecting the land trust, and expanding upon our multimodal transportation. I want to bring transparency, accountability, and collaboration to government. I want to make sure they're putting the community at the forefront of all of our decisions, make sure we're focusing on sustainable and equitable solutions that we can be proud of in the next 20, 30, 40 years, so we're not to go back and redo things. That's why I'm running.
Great. Mr. Yale?
Hi, my name is Bill Yale. I've served Huntsville Utilities for 40 years, 21 of those as communications director. I'm a Huntsville native, grew up here, graduated from the University of Alabama and from Athens State College. Part of my time in Huntsville Utilities, I served as the liaison to the City Council, worked with Mr. Clean quite a bit. I want to make sure that we keep up with the infrastructure needs of Huntsville. It's a very big item we've got to do. I've got a wife, my wife is with me tonight, she's a small business owner, so we understand those dynamics. I've worked with the Boy Scouts of America. I was the chairman for Madison County. I've served on the Land Trust Board here. I am currently the chairman of the Huntsville Tree Commission. I've been very active. I've worked with other groups, the Harris Home here. I was on their advisory board, and I've worked with the March of Dimes. Those are the charitable groups that I've worked in. But I want to make sure that Huntsville's the best city that we can continue to be, as we should be.
Thank you. And now for the District 4 candidates opening, starting with Mr. Klauser.
Hello, I'm Mark Klauser, running for City Council, District 4. I'm born and raised in Huntsville. I served with Huntsville Fire and Rescue for 32 and a half years. I had a small business, Allen Blind Company, and Madison Blinds and Shutters. I run those for 28 years. I've spent my life basically serving my community. I have a wife for 40 years, Margaret. We're both from here. We have 2 children, Christine and Christopher. Christine just swapped jobs from school teacher for 13 years to a company that paid a little more because she's now a single mom. My son is currently serving as a Navy SEAL, the United States Navy in Coronado. What do I want to change in Huntsville? Well, being inside the city for 15 years, for 32 and a half years, I can tell you that the infrastructure is struggling. That's always a problem when you grow fast, but we have let it really outrun us. Also, I've struggled with a lot of the things, how we do homelessness and how we do drug
Okay.
addiction.
Now it's for Mr. Clean.
Buenos noches. Good evening. I'm Bill Kling. I am currently your District 4 City Council member. I want to take the background that I have and use it to help make us go even further and better than we have in the past. I have a master's degree in urban studies from Alabama A&M University. I have been a Huntsville City School Board member, and I have the experience as a Huntsville City Council member to make the tough choices. I want to take what we have, make Huntsville move forward. The most important things that I do are when I'm helping the person in the low-income neighborhood who is challenged and has a threatening neighbor, a person who is being intimidated by the process, and when I'm able to kind of work through the bureaucracy and help to make that person get their problem solved, that is when I stand the tallest. So that is the most important thing for why I'm running for City Council. Thank you.
All right, thank you guys for your opening statements. Now we'll begin with the first question. So the first question is, in a recent amendment of the City Council bylaws, non-agenda public comments were moved to the very end of the council meetings, which are often more than 2 hours long. Do you feel it is in the best interest of area residents to have to sit through an entire meeting to address their elected representatives on record? Why or why not? And this first question goes to Mr. Peters.
No, I don't think it makes sense to put the public comment at the end. Putting them at the end is a huge deterrence for folks to come out of their day and sit through that whole meeting. You know, we're representative of the people. They're our bosses. We need to listen to them. If we feel that's going to have more engagement from the citizens, we need to put the comments in the beginning and let them have their piece. So that way, if they know that what's on the agenda is not something that they're concerned with, they have to sit through that. So anything, we make sure that we're working with our constituents to make sure that we have a system in place that works for everybody and not just what we feel works best for us. I want to make sure that, if we can make things easier with live streaming or bringing questions in electronically, I would explore options like that. I want to make sure things are easy and accessible for the citizens. Thanks.
All right, Mr. Yale.
I agree to having the things at the very end of the meeting. I've been to a lot, probably hundreds of city council meetings. The thing is, if it's an agenda item, you get to speak. You get to go up there and talk about that item. Now, if it's a non-agenda item, I have never had a problem contacting the city council person to talk about that. And I think that's what we need to do, because the city council, when all these, you got a lot of people wanting to talk about things that are not on the agenda, it stops the business of the council, handling your business that needs to be dealt with. So I have no problems with it being at the back, but like I said, if it's an agenda item, you are free to talk about it. I've done it several times. I've gone to the council meeting and been able to speak on agenda items. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Floyd.
So I've been able to attend the council meetings and represent the North Alabama Soccer Coalition, and I will say that having done so, waiting to the end of the meeting can be a little cumbersome. Those meetings can run, even with the business of the city, can run 2-3 hours depending on what's on the agenda. And I think since the mayor and the city council all are afforded the opportunity to speak at the beginning of the meeting with no agenda item, they were able to talk about what they did that week and who they helped out and what went on, that the individuals, us, should also have that same opportunity to speak at the beginning of the council meeting and get through that process. It's not like there are hundreds of people standing up there waiting to talk. So I think if you're going to afford the city council members and the mayor to have that opportunity, then we should have that opportunity as well. And I think it's just, the meetings are televised, and most of the meeting is probably watched at the very beginning and not the end. So when you afford people the opportunity to only speak at the end, you're dismissing the civic engagement, you're making it difficult, and I think ease and access are critical for us to have our voice heard.
Okay, now Mr. Clayton.
Well, I was the one council member who disagreed with the mayor and the other 4 council members, and I voted against it. Reason is, all of you in the audience and all of those who come down to council meetings, we work for you. And that's our job. It's a long meeting. We work and we wait until you have spoken. We make our deliberations on the issues. But that's why we ran for city council, because we want to work for you. So I voted against it, and I would certainly be open if somebody wants to make a motion to reopen the discussion about this and see if maybe it could be changed and brought up to where it used to be in the meeting. Because the city council members, we work for you. Yes, those are long meetings, but bring a pillow to the meeting and have to sit on that for a while. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Klauser.
I totally agree with Bill. I think it should be at the beginning. You should have a voice. The meetings do run long, and what I look at more than anything is it is city business, and you need to get to city business. A lot of times during the city business, we recognize people for certain things, and depending on where that's put, it belittles what's something they've done great in the community. I think that needs to be a different time, and the city council needs to get to business. If they do that, the meetings wouldn't run so long. But a city council meeting that is every 2 weeks is 2 hours. I can stand on my head for 2 hours. If it's 3 hours, that's what you're getting paid to do. That's what you are elected to do. And you're elected to hear the voice of the people, and they need to be heard. And the end of the meeting is not the time to push them that far down, like you said, where no one's watching and their voice is not truly heard.
Great, thank you guys for your answers. The next question is, transparency and communication are essential to fostering positive interactions with the public and your constituents. Please discuss your plans for being transparent, even when your constituents disagree. And we'll start with Mr. Young.
Well, in my years at Huntsville Utilities, especially as the communications director, we were very open. We started Facebook, Twitter, all those items so we could better communicate directly to the customer. My phone was always open, and when we talk about coming to the meetings and speaking, I don't want the first time I hear about your issue is when you come to city council meeting. I want to know about it before then, so I can address your issues. I will be very open, 24/7. I'm retired. I can come out and meet you anytime. I've already done that on some issues that I'm involved with in a commission that I'm part of. So I will be very open for communication, any method that I can for you to communication. I just want to hear from you. I want you to let me know when you have an issue, and we'll get down and see what we can do to work on it and get it fixed for you.
All right, Mr. Floyd?
So transparency equals time and access. I think those are the two key. How long does it take for you to get access to information? How long does it take to get access to your elected officials? And then the information they're able to provide you. So as a city council member, I think it's important that we have transparency. And I think the biggest way to do that is to have ease of access to your elected officials, whether that's through social media, email, phone call, having public forums, which is what our city council members should be doing, is being in the city, in the community, in the districts they serve. And I think it's too often we are doing Huntsville-based forums, Huntsville-based town halls, as opposed to city or district-based. And so a lot of times, if you've been to any of those town hall meetings or seen them televised, there's 2, 3, 4 people in the room. They're held at City Hall, usually. And so I think we need to be out in the public, out in the communities, serving our districts, being in for District 2, 5 Points, as well as Blossomwood, Oak Park, Hampton Cove, not saying come to me in City Council. I'm your elected official. I need to come where you are. I need to be transparent about what's happening and what we're doing and get your feedback.
All right, Mr. Peters?
So I want to make sure that my constituents know what's going on in my head. When I was a naval officer driving the ship, one of the big things we had to do to gain the captain's confidence to get that role was you had to really over-communicate what you were doing. Because if he didn't know what you were doing when you were driving that ship, he would step in and take over. So you always had to kind of talk about what you were doing. So I want to bring that same philosophy. I want to have the town halls, have the meet and greets, get where you are and talk to you, whether it's on social media or in person, and over-communicate what's going on. I want to get in the nitty-gritty of the decisions that are being made so you understand what I've been doing, so you understand where I'm coming from. And if you still have concerns with it, I want to hear those. I want to see how we can do things better. Everything I know that what's going on with the city, I want you to know, and I want you to provide feedback on that, because this is our city, we need to make sure that we all have a voice in it.
All right, Mr. Klauser?
Transparency is huge in government now, in every aspect of it. In every aspect of it. And how we deal with police, how we deal with fire, how we spend our money. Right now, there's a resolution before the city council that's trying to be pushed after the election that each council member gets $75,000 to spend any way they want. That's $1.5 million in return for all council members. That's your money. That should not be done. To me, that money should be spent and voted on by everybody every time. But when you talk about communication and communicating, that's probably the thing I do best in life. But when it comes to answering you and making sure I'm there for you, I've been on 10,000 runs. You don't call 911 because you're having a good day. I come to your house day or night for the last 32 and a half years, and I did whatever you needed for me to solve your problem. That is exactly how I'm going to be when I'm on the city council.
Mr. Cleveland?
As a city council member, I hold a monthly town meeting. Anybody can come to it. It's at the library. Don't care what district you're in. Come on down. It's no topic of mine. It's what you want to talk about because it's your meeting. Additionally, I do an annual postcard survey. And I find I learn from talking to members of the public. I walk neighborhoods, and when I walk neighborhoods, I see people, I see problems that need to be addressed, infrastructure things, and I try to get those addressed. When we have a real hot issue, for example, all the interest concerning the police department, I didn't go and sit back and wait to hear from people. I initiated contact. I initiated contact with people like Angela Curry, Pam Caruso, Harold Kemp, and others to say, what are your ideas? Give me some positive ideas. How do we take all the discussion, concerns about the police department and make it better? A couple things that came out. Mental health training, mental health personnel for the police department, capital funding for Wellstone, and in addition, we took some of the SOPs and had those put up on the internet for the public.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so the next question is a little bit longer, so just bear with me. We are aware that the Alabama Supreme Court decided all materials involved in a police investigation should be protected, including body cam footage. Currently written Police Directive 502.1.8E under internal investigations and last year's City Council resolution lack a clear, concise process for the public to request and obtain body cam footage that is not a part of a police investigation. As City Council person, would you support an amendment to the directive that explains who can request body cam footage, under which circumstances, proceeds for request, any cost that may be associated with the request, and an expected time frame that footage will be made available? Why or why not? Mr. Floyd?
I would support that. And I think that the state of Alabama needs to focus, the legislature needs to focus on passing legislation that provides uniformity in how this should work across the state. Just 2 weeks ago, the state of Colorado passed their Law Enforcement Accountability Act, which then provides exactly how you manage body cam footage. It's to be released within 21 days, unredacted, for most incidents, as long as they're requested by the officer and or the person who's involved. The state of Minnesota, they have a very similar process where you can request body cam footage to be released if you are the subject of that body cam footage, or you can request that that body cam footage is released to a family member or third party approved, or to the public. So you control that body cam footage now should be managed. I think as a city, we need to figure out what that should look like, and as a state, we should be doing those things. So I would support that. I don't know what the answer would be. I think we look to how other states and other municipalities are managing that, and we come together with a conclusive way to manage body cam footage and the release of and retention of.
Thank you. Mr. Peters?
I would absolutely support codifying the process to get non-investigative footage. We want to be a transparent and accountable government, so coming up with a process for people to get what they're allowed to have is a no-brainer. I mean, could you imagine going to the DMV and not being able to get a driver's license and being in the process? So if we can have that non-investigative footage, because right now the state law is that investigative footage we can't release. So non-investigative footage, there should be no barriers to get that. We should have a process, we should build one together, make sure that we can have what the citizens have a right to have.
Great, Mr. Young?
I agree that the footage, we need to review this law, but I have experience in this. I managed all the recordings of all telephone conversations and radio traffic at Huntsville Utilities for a number of years. I know the cost of the equipment, understand how detailed it is to find that information. It's time consuming. So there's going to be a cost for that to get the people to do that. Number one, I agree, if it's an investigation, it cannot be released. Also, some of that footage has people that have privacy concerns. They don't want that video out. They may not even be involved in the event, but they don't want to be seen. And I've looked at that. It's a very complicated issue. It's very expensive to deal with. It needs to be re-examined and reviewed and get a solid policy in place where it can be used to the citizens' benefit. So.
Okay, Mr. Clee?
I would be open to work on such a project. It is something that's going to take a lot of collaboration and teamwork. We have to balance out employees, we have to balance out the rights of someone who may inadvertently have ended up on the video with the right of the public to be able to have access to it. A written, well-defined policy that is made up with collaboration from all of the affected parties would be what would be needed. And I would certainly be very open to work toward that and to come up with a solution in that area.
Mr. Klauser?
There is a model for this. It's under the International Association of Chiefs of Police, and this is an accredited association by the federal government. And you don't have to follow these rules exactly. You can use them as your guideline. So, but these things are very well laid out because it's not a simple thing. Transparency is number one. We need to have it. And, but you have to look at all the angles that this comes under. You also have to look under the cost, as Mr. Yell said, because when you start looking at, if someone comes in and they say they want to disrupt the system, okay, then if they start requesting everything just because they want to see it. Now you're talking about thousands and thousands of hours of footage and people being seen that don't want to be seen. And so it's just not a real simple process, but there is one in place that we can look at, adopt, and I would love to, work with the police department and adopt something that fits the city of Huntsville.
Thank you, guys. Right. With the rising property values and cost of rental properties, are you committed to affordable housing for individuals who make less than $40,000 a year? What solutions will you propose to address housing affordability and availability for the working middle class segment of the citizenry? Mr. Peterson.
Yeah, I absolutely want to work with the city and the developers to make sure we can find equitable housing options. We can work to incentivize developers with zoning codes, and so we can find ways that as they're building out these new developments, we're ensuring that we have workforce housing included in that. We need to make sure that our educators, our police and firefighters, everyone has the ability to live in the community that they're serving. So we want to make sure that we're looking at those zoning codes, incentivizing people to have options for everybody and not just the rich people coming in or inflating the value so we can kind of get that household equity. I want to make sure everyone can live here.
Mr. Young.
I agree, we need to get more affordable housing, but one thing I want to explain. I've worked with a lot of developers. Developers want to maximize their profits. They're not interested in making affordable housing. Go into our mill villages, which I'm very familiar with. My parents grew up in one of the mill villages here. The houses they're building in the mill villages today are not affordable housing. They're tearing down small single-family homes and building 3-story buildings in the place. They're not what we would call affordable. We've got to work with developers, somehow to incentivize them to say, don't do that. Build houses that people can afford, that have lower income and things like that. But I do know, I've worked with a lot of developers, and their interest is making sure they maximize their profit, not necessarily build affordable housing.
Mr. Fuller.
Yep, affordable housing is a concern and something we have to address. I think the benefit of living in Huntsville is that home values are going up, and that's good for a lot of people, but not everybody. I think we have to look at zoning reform, adjusting our zoning to allow for higher density. This doesn't mean we have to have 5-story, 10-story homes, but higher density residential and lower density options where lower density options work. And we also have to look at, can we afford smaller options? I'm not saying tiny homes, but those type of residential homes as opposed to just a standard R1 single family. That's a fairly large property where you could have more than one home on it. You could have 2 to 3 townhomes, for example. So I think those are key for us. Also looking at other options, which is turning non-residential properties into residential properties. Whether that's a school, one area could be the city hall. If you look at, we're getting the new city hall, when we build that, we have a nice, beautiful building. Could that be converted into some type of condominium, some type of residential? So I think getting creative within the city, allowing us to do things, zoning reform, redevelopment, reinvestment, of areas that allow us to have high density residential.
All right, Mr. Klauser.
First, let's be real, okay? The city of Huntsville is not going to get into the buying houses and rental business. So on the level of the city, what can we do as council people to correct this? One is, can you hear me? One is, Michael Jordan, not the basketball player, he just went out and got a lot of grants. A lot of things that they're working on, the city is working on, is voucher programs and things like that. But when you start getting into affordable housing, one of the huge problems is exactly what Mr. Yell is saying, that they're in the business, builders are in the business to make money. And you've got to fight that. And how do you fight it? Very, very hard. Well, one of the problems that comes into it is we're overregulating. So recently, I think people sit around sometimes and just say, I want to figure out how to make another regulation. A new regulation is on a slab foundation of a house. They want that house to have, to be insulated. They want ground fault breakers in every room. That drove the price by $12,000 in the last 6 months. That is, insane, okay?
Thank you. Mr. Clee.
2 things I think that we could work on. Number one, the city is very aggressively going after federal grant monies where essentially the land is being provided to the developer, and the developer in return has to put up what we would call work class housing. Also, we have a pilot plan that's taking place in the Low Mill neighborhood. It's called the Choice Neighborhood Initiative, CNI. This is basically a mixed-use development that includes a combination of current market rate housing along with world-class housing. The ratio mixing together provides good diversity in the neighborhood. This seems to be working as a very good plan. There's been a lot of neighborhood involvement with it. And we could take this concept and expand it elsewhere throughout the city, possibly Hampton Cove, possibly Browns Ferry Road to the west, possibly way out to the south area near Ditto Landing. This way we're dispersing instead of concentrating workforce housing.
Thank you. All right, the next question. What are your plans for helping to solve the houselessness issues in the city of Huntsville?
That's kind of, they just kind of talked about that.
Okay.
Just something about the Hispanic community,
Okay.
and then that's the last question.
Okay, so instead of that question, we're gonna finish with this question. What work would you do to help bridge the gap that exists between the city of Huntsville and the Hispanic population? Mr. Young.
Well, one of the things, there's a language barrier that we have at times. One thing we did at Huntsville Utilities, we printed every piece of material in English and Spanish. We also, for other people with language issues, don't speak English, if they called us, they wanted to set up an account or any issues, we had a system where we had a contractor that we would call, put them on the phone jointly with our staff, and they could communicate with them and handle their issues. We wanted to be able, for any customer that wanted to talk with us about anything, no matter what language they spoke, we wanted to be able to communicate and work with them. I think that's something that I'm not sure what the city does, but we need that ability. And like I said, we worked on hard to get every piece of material that went out to our customers in both English and Spanish.
I think number one is we have to actually go out into the Hispanic community and do outreach programs, and we let them know that the city is here to help support them and everything they need to do. I think so. You have a language barrier, so we can train police officers, firefighters to have language training and others, but ultimately it's getting into the communities and saying we're here for you. I think a lot of times you'll see in the Hispanic communities that they are not as welcoming of outsiders in the city because they're thinking, hey, what's going to happen? Why are you here? I think we have to foster that relationship. I will tell you that from my experience, half Korean, growing up, wherever we were stationed, my mother would always reach out to the Korean community, and that's who we would be in essentially our extended family to find out what services were available, what jobs, how do we integrate into wherever we were stationed. And I think you see that in most immigrant families and how they go. They look for, hey, who's here, who am I with? I think the city's got to do a better job of actually getting out in the community, not expecting the Hispanic community or any immigrant community to come to them. Hey, come to City Hall. You need something, come here. You have to go out there, and I think that's the key. So it's outreach.
Mr. Peters?
Yeah, I definitely agree with the outreach side of that. Huntsville, to be a strong, resilient city, we need to make sure that everybody knows that they belong here, and we're closing those gaps, barriers that people face. Certainly with the language barrier, we can, I was in construction when I got out of the Navy, and we definitely had to make sure we had things in every language because we didn't know who was going to be working, who could speak what languages. So we can provide more of that, providing, meeting minutes and agendas in multiple languages is definitely a start. Having interpreters at events is a huge step. We also need to work at, our Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, making sure that they have the funding and the tools they need to succeed. There's certainly demonstration grants out there to help us get, like welcome centers for, immigration assistance and for employment assistance. So we can definitely look at what kind of federal money we have out there, but we need to work with the communities and make sure that we're addressing the needs they have because we represent everybody. So we need to make sure we understand everyone's concerns.
Thank you. Mr. Clay?
Well, we do have the Office of Equity and Diversion. Excuse me. It's a start. That's all I can say. It's a start. I get my better ideas from people outside the community, including some who are actually out here in the audience. I think the problem is there's a mentality that says, city government, we're going to do it our way. This is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to tell you how we're going to do it. What we need to do is take more of an open approach to go out to the neighborhoods, go out to the people, get into events like this and say, give us your ideas. Well, this is what we want to do to try to make things work. So instead of us trying to take the approach, this is the city department, this is what we're going to tell you we're going to do, we go to you and say, you're the bosses, give us some ideas, we want to help.
Thank you. Mr. Clauser?
First 1 minute's not enough, okay? Not even close. You know, I am new to this, I'll be very honest with you, but I have learned so much in the last couple of months. And what I've learned is we have failed miserably as a city, okay? We're talking about a population that's roughly 10% of Huntsville. And when I go into these communities, and that's where you got to see it, and you start learning, you know, what I see is people that are very welcoming. I stand on street corners up there and I get waved at and very nice, and what they want is they want what you want and they want what I want. They want a house that is decent. They want a job that pays well and they want to provide for their family. And they want to be respected in their community. Who does not want that? That is not being done. We do have committees, but we don't have everyone represented properly on those committees. And I'm just seeing it firsthand. I know my time just came up. I can't even begin to tell you what I really want to tell you, but it's failing, period.
Okay, thank you guys. And now for the closing remarks, so each get 1 minute, and we'll start with Mr. Floyd.
I think there are a lot of challenges with Huntsville. You kind of heard some of those tonight. I think that there's no easy answer to solving any of these problems. I think what you want is you want advocates, you want champions, you want people who are going to hear your voice and going to represent you well at the city level as well in your community. I think the key is to have people who are going to be leaders and as well as listeners to what's happening, and then be transparent, tell you what they can and can't do, and get your feedback and input. I think that's all we all want, is to be represented fairly and equitably on the city council. Mr. Clauser mentioned on the boards as well and everything. I think we cannot do that and be successful if we're looking for the city council in one entity or the mayor's office to solve all our problems. We have to do it together. I think we need people in office who are willing to work together, work with our residents, and as I mentioned before at the beginning, we have to have a city that works for us. That's going to do the things that allow us to be successful. Huntsville's #1 ranking is not because we have a $400 million development going over here or an amphitheater. It's because the people in Huntsville are working together to make it a better place. And so, for me, that's what we need to do. And I ask for your vote on August 23rd.
Thank you. Mr. Peters?
So Huntsville's #1, and that title means something, but we have to earn that every day. We can't just say, hey, we won this, we're there, we did it. We need to keep earning that. We need to keep raising that standard, raising that bar. We need to do that by making sure we have transparency, accountability, equitability, and collaboration. We need to make sure the city's working for everybody, and then we're working with the city. This is how our community can continue to rise to the top and continue to push that standard and maintain that #1 status and be this awesome place to live that we all chose to live in. Whether we were born here or moved here, there's something about Huntsville that we fell in love with, and that's why we stay here. So we need to make sure we're putting the community at the forefront and focusing on what makes Huntsville Huntsville and keep fixing the things that we want to improve, and together we can continue to make that happen.
For 40 years, I served you at Huntsville Utilities. I made sure that every day your lights came on when you flipped the switch, the water came out of your faucet, if you had natural gas, it flowed. I will bring that same dedication that I had for Huntsville Utilities to the city council. I work for you. That's who I work for. And I will answer to you. I will listen to you. If you got a problem, you come to me and we're going to work on it. We'll work with the departments to see if we can get things fixed. We got road issues, we got infrastructure issues, we got homeless issues, we got a lot of things that need to be worked on. But guess what? I spent 40 years of a career working on issues. And I'm open. I'll listen, I'll take your phone call. I don't care whether you live in District 2, 1, 4, 3, whatever, 5. I will help you with your issue and I will work for you. Thank you for your time.
Clauser?
Well, when you're on the top as a city, it's a long ways down, and a lot of people fall. And right now, we're on top. But I'll tell you what, okay, our infrastructure is falling apart. We're way behind in Police, fire, we're way behind in. Garbage didn't get picked up. I'm going door to door, I'm hearing it left and right. Rubbish doesn't get picked up. And we hear excuse after excuse. The bottom line is we have not shored up our infrastructure. So that is something we very much need to do. Then we also have the problems of how we've reached out into our communities and who we're actually including and not just giving lip service. We're not up on that. So when I started looking at running in the beginning, sort of how I've changed through this process is I see things a lot differently. This has been a tough process. But I can tell you this quickly, 15 seconds, is that, 10,000 runs serving you day and night, I'm a servitude type person. I'll be honest with you, I'm just tired of death. I'm tired of people, ODs, shootings, stabbings, full arrests, car wrecks. I'm ready to serve you in a different way, and that's going to help you in your community.
Thank you. Mr. Clinton?
I am the person who will stand up to the mayor and to the other 4 council members and will side with you if I agree with you on an issue, such as the public comment being moved to the end of the meeting. I reach out to you. I have a monthly town meeting. I have an annual postcard survey. I walk the neighborhoods even when it's not election time. I do all these things to listen to you, and I want to continue to be your city council member. I've been on the city council for a long time, but I have a lot of energy and enthusiasm. I've got a master's degree from Alabama A&M that I earned part-time while I was working. I have experience 4 years as one of your city school board members. I've got experience as one of your city council members making those tough decisions, and I want to continue to work for you. And again, you call me, I call you back. You're in the district, fine. You're not in the district, as some of you know, I call you back regardless of what district you're in. So please tell your friends to vote for Bill Kling, District 4, Huntsville City Council. Thank you.
Well, that was the closing remarks. So we just want to thank everybody for taking the time out of your schedules to come here. Certainly thank the people who put this event on and did all of that logistical behind the scenes stuff. And then of course thank the candidates for their time as well. Good evening.